Hi folks, something a little bit different today. We're working on remodeling in our living room here, and where we are, this has been an ongoing project. The living room's been partially done for a while. Part of that has to do with money, part of it has to do with you have to do things in a certain sequence just because of working with old work and trying to get things the way you want them to be. I'm trying to finish off the ceiling in here. As you can see, it's got beamwork and some drywall and some lights and a lot of wires, and I can't finish off the drywall for the ceiling. The plan is to have exposed beamwork with drywall in between, but I can't finish that off. I can't put all the drywall up until I run all my electric wires, because obviously I'm not getting up there again, and I have to run a lot of my wiring for the rest of the house, since I'm bypassing all the old and putting all new wiring in through here. This is a basement living room, and the main panel box is just outside a ways away, so I have to run everything through here. And also here in the living room itself, it was never updated the way it should have been. There was electric heat put in here in the 1960s. I've since upgraded that. Probably 20 years ago I put better baseboards in, but I hadn't redone the wiring, so I need to change that. Also, there weren't many receptacles in here, and of course we want to change that. My first thought was, well, I can just cut some holes in this wainscoting that's here and then just snake wires in behind, but as you can see, there are boards that are nailed into the plaster, and really that's a skim coat of concrete, a 2-foot thick stone wall behind there, so I couldn't run wires in between, so I'm forced to pull the wainscoting off. I've already replaced some of it in here because the opposite wall to me is an underground wall, and it was getting sort of rot from the dampness and stuff over the years. I've since replaced that and made it more watertight, but haven't done the rest of this yet. So as you can see, I cut a hole there for a receptacle, but wasn't able to do anything to get wires in. My feed for this room comes into this switch box. This was a temporary setup that I will do a bit better when I finish off things. But the electrical feed for the lights and receptacles for the living room comes into here. So from here I need to go down into there and then be able to move around the room. So I'm forced to take this wainscoting off. I don't mind doing it because there might be some other spots where there's mold behind it and so on. I want to put a little bit of insulation and make the room a little warmer. I just want to talk a little bit about this wainscoting. This is an interesting process that was done here on the farmhouse. As you can see, this kind of attempted graining here, what looks like a kind of a strange graining on this. I know that this room was remodeled at least once from when the original farmhouse was built, and I'm guessing this wainscoting was added perhaps 20s. There's still square nails in here, so it predates the round nails, but this process of finishing off this wainscoting was known as faux graining, F-A-U-X, faux graining, and it was a two-step process that was popular back then to make wood look more expensive and richer than it really was. You could use a cheaper grade of wood, say a pine, and maybe you wanted to make it look like walnut or oak, but you didn't have the money for that. So what they would do is you would take the raw wood and you would first paint it with a lighter colored paint, like a tan or a yellowish, and that would be your base coat. And you would just use a regular paintbrush to do that. And then the second step is you would actually take your stain, whether it was like a walnut or an oak, and you'd put that on over top of the paint. I know that sounds silly, but then they came with some specialty tools. One was a roller that sort of looked like it had the graining carved in. It had raised grain carved in a roll, and you just roll that on, and that's why you get this kind of repeated pattern here. Makes it look sort of like checking in wood. The other was almost like a fine-tooth steel comb, and that's where you get this kind of, looks like graining that way too. Here you can see in this piece that looks almost like real grained wood, but it's not. It was one of those rollers. It's a bit of an artwork. I did find a set of those in my other house that I think belonged to my great uncle, and I did do some work with that at one point just to experiment with it. I'm nowhere near the ability of people who could do this, but apparently this was something that was done by people in that era to enhance the look of the woodwork without having the money to be able to do it, to actually spend the money for that type of wood. So that's the one thing that's sad about having to get rid of this wainscoting, is because it was done with this faux graining. It was kind of a project that you can't really duplicate. Every person doing it would do it a little differently. Some were better at it than others. And this entire living room here, from the chair rail down, you can see I just tore the chair rail out of there. The chair rail down was all this 1x lumber with the tongue and groove, the wainscoting on it, and then it was faux grain. So it probably looked very nice when it was brand new back almost 100 years ago, but now it's at the point where I've just got to get rid of it, and we're going to start over. We're going to frame in something else, some kind of maybe a 1x whatever. I've got nothing weight bearing over here, so all that I want to do is put some kind of heavy duty plywood, like a thin T111 on the bottom, and then on the top I'll put 3/8 drywall, moisture resistant drywall. But before I do that, I'll put some kind of vapor barrier behind here, and then maybe 1/2-inch foam board insulation, something to make the room a little warmer. But that'll also give me the space I need then to be able to put in my receptacle boxes and run my wires in behind here. So that's what's got to be done here next to finish off this living room. It's going to take me a while to do it, but at least if I can get these wires run that way, at least I can begin to finish off the ceiling, because I won't have to worry about running any more wires to the house then. And then also I'll have my receptacles and my electric heat active and ready to go for in here. If I should not use the wood stove or whatever, I'll have the baseboard electric heat available. So we'll come back to you when we've got more of that done, but I just wanted to introduce this part of the project to you. I started working on this living room before I had the YouTube page, so you don't see the beginning of it, but it's been an ongoing process, as most remodeling is. You can't just do like new construction where you start at one point and you finish at the other point. You kind of hop around to different things, and especially working on a shoestring, as money and time is available and I don't have other things to do like gardens or firewood or what have you, I've been working on this. So this is where we stand right now, but I just wanted to show you what I'm doing as far as taking this off and getting ready to replace this. If I can salvage any of these pieces of wainscoting, I will, for whatever else I may want to use with them, maybe for something else, I don't know. But if they're not rotting or moldy, if they're still good and solid, I probably will, because they just don't make this kind of heavy duty wood anymore. But we'll see what we can do with it. So we'll keep you updated and show you how the process is going. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our channel.